What's up everyone and welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for joining, and if you're new here, hey, I'm glad to have you. Today I wanted to talk about the upcoming Star Wars show Skeleton Crew and why I think it will make or break Star Wars for many reasons. I think this is going to be a very different show than they've ever done before with a very different tone, and I'm not sure if that's what Star Wars needs, and I'm not sure if that will actually help Star Wars in its current state. I also think Lucasfilm is in a pivot moment, and Skeleton Crew might decide the entire future of the entire Star Wars streaming era, and I think the reaction from this show from certain Star Wars fans might break the whole franchise, so let's dive in. There's a whole lot here. Skeleton Crew looks like it's going to be a very different project than we've ever seen before in the entire Star Wars universe. Now this is all speculative, right? Like, I'm just basing this off of the trailers. We can only base this off of what they've released online and the roundtable that they recently released, but that's what it seems like this show is going to be. Now, marketing tends to lie to us, right? Like, that's their job, that's what they're supposed to do, but based off of everything they've done so far, this show looks like it's going to be solely for kids. And before anyone says anything, I will not be talking about Young Jedi Adventures. I don't think that is included in this conversation. I think that's in its own other ballgame. Where Skeleton Crew, while I do think it is solely intended for kids and it's being marketed for kids, I still think they are hoping for this show to be enjoyed by the general mass audience, where I don't think you can say the same thing about Young Jedi Adventures. These shows and movies have always been for kids, that is just a fact. These are kids shows, these are kids movies, and yet we still like them when we're adults, which is fine. But if you don't believe me that they're for kids, please listen to your God, dear Lord and Savior George Lucas.
Which the movies are for children, but they don't want to admit that.
It's always been for kids, but the tone of Star Wars was a little more mature. They've kind of crafted their own tone. Family friendly if you want to put a label on it, but this tone looks like a drastic shift from anything that Star Wars has ever done before, and it looks like something only kids will enjoy. The kids are the main characters, the trailers have that whimsical ass music that makes you feel hope again, makes you feel like you were 8 years old again.
What do you think it is?
They stole that music in the trailer from E.T., right? Like, I mean, it's all John Williams, so technically I guess they're all stealing it, but that's E.T., right? Or that last trailer has the zany music that lets you know you're going on an adventure.
What did you do? We're lost. Really lost.
It's also maybe the first time they're using an actual song in a trailer. I might be wrong on that, I'm just kind of saying that, but I don't remember seeing a trailer for Star Wars use an actual licensed song. So that's also interesting. This show looks like it's fully for kids, and Disney has never done that before with Star Wars, and I'm not sure how the Star Wars community, being the great group of folks that they are going to respond well to this show. But even for like normal Star Wars fans, Star Wars has its own tone, and they seem to be drifting very much away from that, more towards a kid-friendly route. It's very interesting that they're diving down the kid route, because the things that have done very well in TV Star Wars have always been just a little more mature, right? Like the Mandalorian's first season was more on the mature end. Andor, despite the low viewership numbers, it critically did well, and that was a pretty dark show with some pretty dark themes about war. They even tried to sneak in the word fuck in the very last episode of Andor, and obviously that didn't work out, but it's cool that they were thinking that.
Fight the Empire!
It reminds me kind of when the Clone Wars came out and it was a very kiddie. Like, there were some fine episodes in those first 2 seasons, I'm not gonna lie, not saying that there weren't, but season 3 and on was a very different show. Also, fuck General Crow. So it's interesting that the show is so kid skewing, because Star Wars has tried it in the past and it didn't fully work out. But I get it, they're trying to expand their brand, they're trying to expand their audience, they're trying to expand their brand to kids that are growing up right now and have probably never experienced Star Wars, or if they have, it's been very minimal, but they haven't like really grown up with Star Wars. They definitely saw Stranger Things and were like, hey, let's do that. They did meet with the Duffer Brothers, that is proven, but I don't think it was for the show. Or did they watch Star Trek Prodigy and they were inspired by this? Like, I know talking about Star Trek is not usually okay when talking about Star Wars, but I don't give 2 shits about dueling fandoms. I watch what I watch, I like what I like. But Star Trek Prodigy is exactly the show. It's about a ragtag group of kids, they find a ship, and then they go on adventures in the galaxy, and they're literally mentored by an older figure in the Star Trek lore. So it seems like they watched it. Someone from Star Wars has to know about this show, right? Like, I know no one watched it. I know it did not do well because it premiered on Paramount Plus, and no one has Paramount Plus. But someone has to have watched this show and knows that these shows are so similar. And based off of these trailers that have been released, I feel like this show is going to have a ton of kid humor. More than there's ever been. Like Jar Jar Binks on fucking steroids.
Are you listening to any of this?
We're listening.
Oh yeah, what did I just say?
Are you listening to any of this?
You thought there were kiddie moments before in Disney Star Wars? You thought Star Wars already had too much Marvel humor? Oh, I have a feeling there's going to be so much coming your way.
Hey, no fair! I wanted to be the captain!
As crew, you may challenge the captain to a battle to the death.
No, that's okay.
I'm kind of excited if it's going to piss off certain Star Wars fans. I'm kind of excited about that, I'm not going to lie. I swear if there's a fart moment in the first episode, like that'll just be the icing on the cake. But hey, if there is, they did do their homework. You can't say they don't do that in Star Wars. George Lucas would never do that. Oh, he already has. So it seems like it's going to be a very different tone. And if this does work out, Lucasfilm may try expanding the Star Wars universe again like they've always wanted, but this time in a very different way. Like I mentioned, all of these Star Wars projects are around the same tone, which Star Wars has a unique tone, but this might make them experiment more with tone and try out different genres. And this will 100% piss off Star Wars purists who just get upset about kids' TV shows for some fucking reason, but it might be what Star Wars needs. The show might also be very good, right? It could be amazing. It could be so good that no one really wants to complain about it. And it might be that perfect blend of 80s wonder and Amblin Entertainment and the Goonies, like the creators recently said that they wanted. It could be just a perfect blend where everyone is happy. But if it doesn't work out, then I think Star Wars will be in an identity crisis, and I think they will pivot their entire strategy for streaming. Disney Star Wars is in a very weird place right now. I feel like they're in their mid-20s and they're trying to find themselves and they're just trying out weird shit, trying to figure out who they're going to be. We all know someone who's like this, right? Like someone who just, tries rock climbing one month and like that's his whole personality for the month. But then the next month he joins a run club and that's his whole personality. But then the next month he's making his own beef jerky, He's just doing all this weird shit. And they're doing that because they're trying to figure out who they're going to be. And I feel like Star Wars is going to find out who they're going to be after Skeleton Crew premieres. Star Wars has been trying to expand in their streaming era, and let's be honest, their whole TV streaming has been kind of a mixed bag, both with viewership and with critics. And I say this as someone who has enjoyed most of what they've done. Is it all phenomenal television? No, but it doesn't have to be. Not every show needs to be an Emmy contender. Some are just fun. And if you think Star Wars has always been this phenomenal masterpiece, well,
I don't like sand.
Skeleton Crew is the last new show that is coming out from Star Wars. Yes, we have another season of Andor coming out, and we have another season of Ahoska coming out, but there aren't any new shows coming out after this. We'll be getting new seasons of previous shows, but there hasn't been a new show announcement in quite some time. This makes me believe that they know their shows are not hitting the numbers that they want, so now they're rethinking their entire streaming era and rethinking their entire streaming strategy. If Skeleton Crew does well with viewers and proves that there is an audience out there, then Lucasfilm might start developing new shows again. They might start greenlighting new shows again. But if it doesn't, I feel like this is the end. Andor will come out and have their season 2, and I'm sure it will be great, but that's it for them. Andor is over. Ahsoka will have their season 2, but who knows if we'll have a season 3, and that's all for their shows. And there have been hints that they were moving away from TV altogether, right? Like Mandalorian is now shifting and going to be a movie that is currently dated for May of 2026. There's also been a lot of movie announcements, and all of those movie announcements have just aged so well. They may be realizing this already, like they may be going back to what has already worked before with their latest announcement that Simon Kinberg is going to plan a brand new trilogy of Star Wars movies. It seems like they're retreating back and just trying to do what they know works. But once again, they make these announcements all the time, right? They have no real value. It's like George R. R. Martin giving an update about the winds of winter. It happens every few months where we get excited when an announcement happens and then nothing happens. And then they announce something again and then we get excited again. And we just don't learn anything because we as humans are a very stupid species. Skeleton Crew is already going to be a very different show with its massive kid tone, so it already had a lot going against it. But now it will be the final test if Star Wars TV will keep continuing in this capacity. There's a lot riding on these little kids' backs. I feel very sorry for them. And speaking of kids, another reason why I think this will break Star Wars is because how the Star Wars community reacts to anything. They've been known to bully people, right? Like we had Kelly Marie Tran being bullied off of social media, or we had Moses Ingram being sent so many racist messages that Ewan McGregor had to step in and course correct the little fuckers.
We stand with Moses, and if you're sending her bullying messages, you're no Star Wars fan in my mind.
And if this show is not phenomenal, I'm saying like best fucking show in the world, because that's the fucking standards nowadays, where if something is not top tiered, it's the worst show in the world. Garbage writing, terrible acting, it's the worst thing I've ever seen. They react very poorly, and if this show is not good, I have a feeling that they are going to attack these kids in the same way that they've attacked their other actors. I genuinely hope these kids are not on social media and they don't get to see any of it, because I feel like if the show is not good, there's going to be so much hurt coming their way. Disney already does a shit job of defending their actors, right? Like, they do take steps, they do make their actors go through a social media boot camp of what to expect, but that's about it. As we saw with Jodie Turner-Smith, Disney did fuck all protecting their actors from these little bitches online that are just so genuinely pissed off about a kids' TV show. So I don't think they're going to do anything to protect these kids, and kids are not off limits in the Star Wars realm. We are all very well aware that Jake Lloyd got bullied relentlessly, and that was before social media. Can you imagine if Twitter was around when episode 1 came out? We would have had so many good memes about 9/11. It's already been proven that Lucasfilm is having a hard time working with this very small but very loud group of people that think it's okay to bully people online, and I feel like if they attack kids in the same way that they attacked Moses Ingram, then that might be the end of Star Wars trying to do anything new with Star Wars. They won't stop making new stuff, but they will retreat back to playing it safe and relying on nostalgia, which just gives everyone just very boring, very middle of the road type stuff. And if the general public sees these kids getting attacked, I feel like Star Wars will just be forever tainted. The reaction to Skeleton Crew might push everyone who is a Star Wars fan or wanted to be a Star Wars fan to walk away, because it's not fucking worth it to like something only to have some like entitled little fuck all up in your DMs telling you about how you're dumb because you enjoyed an episode of television. Hey, I enjoyed something. No, you didn't. Here's why. The canon! And that's why I think Skeleton Crew is going to make or break Star Wars. It is a very different show. Lucasfilm is in a very weird place right now, and the little bitches that think they own Star Wars might ruin it for everyone. But I could also be wrong, and this show could be so fucking phenomenal, and it could unite everyone, and everyone just is happy for once, and everyone is just happy that Star Wars is great, and everyone will like this show, and who am I kidding? That ain't gonna happen. That was fun to feel a little joy back there. Needed that. But what do you think? Do you think this is a smart move to try out very different tones in Star Wars, even though it might not work out and it's never been done before? Or do you think that Star Wars will keep continuing trying to make their streaming strategy work? Let me know in the comments. And if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Whether you already subscribe or you haven't, thank you for taking the time out of your day to see what I got. I hope I delivered some form of entertainment. Feel free to leave a comment if there's something you want me to talk about, and if you haven't subscribed and you haven't enjoyed what I said, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. I put out new videos every week discussing not just Star Wars, but the entire film and TV business as a whole and trends in film and TV. So if you subscribe, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.